Folks, I mean, just the guys that I'm going to be watching at the Senior Bowl: Xavier Restrepo, Jalen Royals, Jaden Higgins, Ty Felton, Tez Johnson, Jack Beck, Alec Ayomanor, Savion Williams, Patrick Bryant, Jalen Knoll, Brew McCoy, Arian Smith. All those guys are legit NFL prospects. Third round picks are good, you guys. Like you're getting gems in the fourth round, especially last year. It's a deep wide receiver class. It's a deep running back class. There's no reason to scoff. Now, I don't like the Rome Odunze piece of it, but I like the draft picks.
What was that trade that set it up? Because we just got going. What's that trade?
The trade was I was offered Rome Odunze, the 304 and the 309 for my AJ Brown, to which I replied, I have to decline, but I would do this deal for JSN.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's a heartbeat snap decision.
Yeah, I just couldn't. So part of my process, which I'm Chev, legendary ball knower, aka your favorite podcaster's favorite podcaster. My thing is, this year would be the year that you want to get in on those late second, third round picks that people normally just like, oh, this is a throw in. Like once you see that it's like 307, 306, really anything with a 3 or later behind it. Like if I'm in a 5-round draft, I want to acquire 3rd and 4th round picks because I've done the work and I know that this class is one where the top end depth is, at receiver, it's not as deep as it was last year, but the running back depth, and we know those running backs aren't going to get capital. They're going to have a bad combine. The guys that we're high on right now, like the guy that we're going to talk about on my end tonight, RJ Harvey, he runs a 4.57. He's going to be a day 3 pick, period.
But we talk about wide receiver depth. These are the generations of like YouTube kids that are like out there, just like they know route running, they know separation skills. This is a different era of wide receiver. And last year seems like it was one of the first classes that's just going to completely infiltrate the NFL. It's crazy.
No, I agree. So as a whole, the talent and like as a pool at receivers getting better because you can play 7-on-7 all the time. It's just like back in the day, you get better at basketball because you can just go somewhere with a court. Now there's year-round 7-on-7 and all these opportunities for kids to just go and like do one-on-ones and stuff. So yeah, they're going to be a little bit more developed. What I'm saying is I don't think that this class is as talented as the 2024 class from a top end perspective. Like there's no Malik Neighbors to me in this class. There's no like Rome would be the wide receiver 1 in this class to me, unquestionably.
Hey, and to your point, Chev, and part of what Bigz is talking about with the 7-on-7s, take a guy like Luther Burden in this class. He's going to be more of a creative player, a weapon, right? And there's role differentiation in the NFL. And I think that's why you're seeing more growth and accordion out a wider pool of better wide receivers because we're refining the different position within the positions that these wide receivers play. So if you take somebody like Nico Collins and you get Luther Burden, he can cut up and do all these different complementary routes to the archetype of somebody like Nico Collins. Same thing for Emeka Egbuka. He can do a lot of different route combinations like somebody, ironically, JSN. He can move all around the formation. And if you have that, same thing for the Bengals. Opposite of Jamar Chase, you need a role route differentiator. So Luther Burden presents that. Emeka Egbuka is somebody who's very fluid and can move around, bend and maneuver in every type of way. When you see the lines of where the routes are, these guys can cut up the entire field while somebody else is going over the top. Take Tet McMillan, big body receiver. He's going to get it more over the top than the route differentiation that you're going to get from Emeka Egbuka, than the weapon differentiation you're going to get from Luther Burden. So what I'm looking for is the NFL teams, if they can get the right fit, then it's wheels up.
the perfect example of that is Brian Thomas Jr., who, and we talked about the last couple of weeks probably. The profile, his route profile coming out of LSU is not how he was deployed for Jacksonville. So all of the analytics in the models were wrong on Brian Thomas Jr. because he didn't do what he was asked to do at LSU. But he was versatile enough to do what Jacksonville wanted him to do and score a shitload of touchdowns. So there are a lot of guys who profile that way. Luther Burden is a good example of that. On the surface, he looks to me like Deebo Samuel, Xavier Legette 2.0, but we don't know that yet because we don't know his landing spot and how they're going to ask him to utilize his athletic profile. And that's why I feel like late round draft picks are super, super valuable, way more valuable than people give them credit for. Anytime you can have somebody throw in a third rounder, they're not really going to probably mind, you know what I mean? But capitalize as much as you can. And because you got a taxi squad for a reason.
Mm-hmm. I love that call, Bigz. And you open us up to that third round, fourth round potential, and those throw-ins are league-winning throw-ins when you can, capitalize on maybe a Bucky Irving, like we talked about pre-show here, who was a third-round guy, ended up coming in, and guys that were being taken ahead of him. Kamani Vidal, we talked about that, and being able to, identify that talent and get it where it is. And, some of these are dart throws, but these third round, fourth round guys can convert. And we know in the last couple of years, they have, Tyrone Tracy is another example of that happening.
Should we start the show?
Yeah, let's start the show.
We should.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to kind of speed into. Go ahead, Chev.
We were recording
the whole time.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah, man.
Oh, my bad.
The Mandela effect. We were
All right.
recording.
Time to get the singlets out, Chev.
Oh, man. Well, I've got a bedazzled one that's really gonna blow your socks off.
He's got his nipple tassels ready to go.
Yeah.
All right, let's get this show going. And today we're going to be talking about, some rookies in the NFL draft coming up here. I just put on the show sheet to pick a guy, you're kind of intrigued about. So whether you're high or low on him, or whether you just want to, scratch the surface on this talent, then we'll get into some stock downs that we didn't do last week. And that'll be our show for today. And who's going to get this party started with the first rookie? It looks like Schultzy is on deck here.
All right, cool. So I went for Isaiah Bond here. Got another Texas receiver. We seem to kind of have an influx of these guys here recently. Another little guy here, kind of like Xavier Worthy last year. He's 5'11", 180. Spent first 2 years at Alabama, Saban recruit, and then gets out of there before the new guy comes in, goes over to Texas. And my intriguing thing here with this guy is it seems like he was primarily a vertical shot at Alabama, which, I mean, he was young, trying to find the field. Like, that kind of adds up, right, with his skill set. I watched a little bit of this guy. It's like nothing super in-depth yet, but like Sark has definitely gotten creative with him. Sark saw the vision, put it on the field. So there's some stuff I like with this guy. First of all, it's the speed. Very curious what he's going to run at the combine. He clocked 22 miles an hour this year on the field as a ball carrier, which is like, that's elite speed right there. So very curious. What's up?
I said, yeah, 100%. I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah. So very curious to like what number we get out of this guy at the combine, which is a very big deal to a lot of people now. It is a big deal, but it is a little bit overemphasized deal sometimes. So I am very curious by that number. But looking into some of his stats, freshman year was pretty quiet. He only caught 220 yards, but 668 as a sophomore at Bama and only 540 this year. But his yards per reception, 13.9 sophomore year, 15.9 this year. So, yeah, they're using him pretty well down the field. But like I mentioned, I saw Sark using this guy in kind of different ways. He looks really comfortable as like a filling in like the zone spots, just finding the little soft spots, working, getting into those, finding some yak after that. Sark had him working outside some, running some like perimeter routes. He's not like super polished at or anything, but like it looks like he's got the chops to at least, make it happen on a part-time basis. But I think this guy's going to eat in the slot. Yeah, he looks really comfortable, like I said, jumping into zones and finding the spots. And then at any point in the game, he's going to be able to take the top right off of you. I'm going to be honest, I have no idea where he's going to get drafted right now and what that means for fantasy drafts, because I see a path where someone falls in love with this dude and we get a Xavier Worthy end of the first round scenario here. And that, like, what happens draft night is going to be a big deal as far as fantasy rookie drafts go, right? So where he's going to go right now is going to be a tough call, honestly. And then the other weird thing for me is he saw like no run down the stretch here for this Texas team in the last like 5 games. He caught 4 balls in the last 5 games for this Texas team. I don't know. I don't have any idea what the cause is on that, but yeah, there's a lot of really, really cool intangibles here. I think that could translate to the next level. I'm looking forward to seeing how he tests and where he ends up.
I feel like the Xavier Worthy comp is a good one. Marvin Mims is another one. And if there's one thing that we know about those 2 guys, it's that their perceived value definitely exceeds their production on the field. So if he's a guy that, say you're in your rookie draft and he's on the board and it's your pick, trying to figure out, does somebody want him? Let me trade back. Let somebody jump up here, grab Isaiah Bond, and then I'm going to grab somebody else plus. It's not that I don't like Isaiah Bond. I have him in C2C. He's an ascending player for me this year, and I'm kind of excited to see what I'm going to unwrap, especially with his stated 40 time at 4.28 right now. Give him 3 months to work on that and just do nothing but straight line speed. And there's a possibility he gets into the 4.1. It's a remote possibility, but I mean, how bad would that blow away the combine if he was like down there?
Which is so counterintuitive, because what does training 3 months of straight line speed do for football?
Right, but that's how you get
maneuvering. Yeah, the market. Yep.
No, 100%. But like in the grand schemes of actually playing football, solely training straight line speed for 3 months is kind of strange.
Or how about when you hit weight, but you wait for a pro day so that you can get your weight down or up? Yeah.
Yeah, yep. And he was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, which everybody should know by now that you don't want to take it's limited the NFL hits that you get from 3-star recruits. Although that's not to say that doesn't happen. If I remember correctly, Luther Burden was like a 2-star recruit, something like that.
No, he was a 5-star.
Oh no, he was a 5-star. It was somebody else I was researching that was a 2-star that absolutely is smashing right now. Anyway, Trey Harris maybe. But 5'11", 180, he's going to be used as like Henry Ruggs, Xavier Worthy, Marvin Mims. He's going to be a gadget guy. He's currently draft.
Go ahead, Bigz.
Draft Buzz currently has him as their wide receiver 5 in the class. I don't think that I'm going to anticipate wide receiver 5 production, but I certainly could anticipate wide receiver 5 draft capital and value.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I would love to see him land on day 2 with the Texans as the potential Tank Dell fill in, because I mean we're probably not going to see Tank Dell in 2025 at all. And Stephon Diggs was basically given all of his money up front to go, hey, if it works, great. If it doesn't, you got your walking papers to go get another payday. So what if he lands with the Texans opposite of Nico Collins, playing the Tank Dell role with this lightning elite speed? Like, obviously we would get super, super excited for the opportunity he would have at that point, right?
Or imagine him in Tampa taking the top off with McMillan and Mike Evans underneath.
Love that call. That'd be exciting.
I thought Bond looked pretty comfortable operating like underneath too. Like not like that's like where he's going to make his bread and butter, but like as far as like deep threat speedsters goes, I don't know. Just watching him a little bit, I felt like he had some of that underneath underneath slot guy to him a little bit more than those other dudes.
Yeah, like a nuanced understanding of zones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Jeremiah. We got a running back that you're going to be talking about. Let's hear about who you got this week.
Hey, I love Omarion Hampton. From a muscular build, structure, aesthetics, I see similarities, body frame, to Jonathan Taylor. 6 feet, 220 pounds, 281 carries, 1,660 yards as a senior, and 15 touchdowns. He also had 38 catches for 373 receiving yards in 2024. So we usually like to see about 20 catches or more in a given season to translate and show to the NFL. Look at Omarion Hampton with 38. Hampton is going to stay on the field. He does not fumble. 0 fumbles at UNC. I feel like somebody like Sean Payton might really like that. Kevin Stefanski might really like that. He's a downhill runner who you don't want to be in front of when he gets momentum. Excellent pad level too when he has to strike and make contact. NFL Draft Buzz has a 4.44 40 time from a scouting report, so I expect somewhere in the 4.4s. Go to 247, you'll see Hampton was a 4-star prospect. Nimble feet for such a big guy. 2 years ago, I knew we'd see Hampton on Sundays. Now it's just a matter of what uniform is he going to wear. Theo Greminger on X posted ACC players with 1,500 rushing yards and 15 touchdowns in consecutive seasons. Lamar Jackson, Dalvin Cook, Travis Etienne. The fourth guy, Omarion Hampton. A little neat aside, I've been talking to one of Hampton's teammates, and he said it sucked to tackle him. He said that Omarion Hampton, as a freshman, was repping squats, 500 pounds, repping. And who knows how much stronger he got, and that he would just show up to workouts, doesn't talk to anybody, shows up, gets the job done. And then I had a high school coach tell me he saw him in high school and said, dude, that guy is a grown man in high school. Really huge quads. And I know people talk about like quad season and all that, but just to hear other people talk about just his physicality, I'm all about some Omarion Hampton. And in this draft class, right, Ashton Jeanty is going the 101. And then it's, okay, Omarion Hampton. And then it's Caleb Johnson, whether it's Judkins or Travion Henderson. There's a group, a tier. There's always going to be a second running back that gets a really good team matchup that's going to come up close to getting the hype. And it's going to come real close to Ashton Jeanty. One of those running backs, for me, is going to be Omarion Hampton.
Yeah, man, I like that call too. 2,900 yards, 30 touchdowns over 3 seasons. That's pretty solid. 6 consecutive 100-yard games to end this season. I love that. You know, he's able to be, you know, catch some passes out of the backfield. So with that, you know, it's still developing from what I can see from his film, that the little that I've watched from him. So how do you see Hampton's receiving game evolve at this next level then? Could he be more of a viable asset in PPR leagues? Do you think his hands need to improve? What are you thinking here?
I think he's there, and especially if he can block, he has the size to do it. And we already see what he can do as a rusher. It's definitely there. He just has to get opportunity. He's going to get I'm hearing people and reading about how he could get into the early second round, and that's as good as draft capital, short of the rare first round running back that you'll get. So I would be very keen on him if he were to go to the Broncos. That's a team I love for him. The Browns as well, and in low key, if he were to reunite with Drake May in New England, I wouldn't mind that at all. Some other running back needy teams that I have listed, the Chargers, you talk about getting wrecked. Like, would love some Omarion Hampton on the Chargers. And here's the thing. We thought, okay, here's the callback. Here's the callback.
Like getting your ass kicked on the internet?
People went crazy over Kamani Vidal, right? And you just imagine to the Chargers. You see Omarion Hampton get selected by the Chargers. He may just be that guy who everyone's like, oh, Jeanty goes to the Cowboys, Hampton to the Chargers. They're neck and neck.
There you have it. Erect Chargers. All right, let's move on to our next guy. And it looks like Bigz. Who do you got?
Well, I just wanted to chime in real quickly on Omarion Hampton. He's absolutely my RB2. And you mentioned tiers. I put him in tier B by himself. Then it's everybody else. So agree with you. All right. I'm going to talk about somebody who's a little bit lesser known. Not a lot of people watch Utah State, and he also only had 834 yards and six touchdowns this year. But I'm talking about Jayden Reed. He's 6 feet tall. He's 205 pounds. He's a senior. 4.38 40 time isn't really burning anybody. Over the last couple of years, he had 1,080 yards receiving in 2023. He got hurt towards the end of 2024, so he's going to be working his way back. But that is something that you can take full advantage of. He's listed as Draft Buzz's wide receiver 8. I'm going to get to scout him at the Senior Bowl, and I will definitely have video right here on the Undroppables and Fantasy Football Plus for the Dynasty Pulse. I really like this guy. He's another guy that I have in Campus of Canton across multiple squads that I'm going to be watching ascend. And he profiles as a slot guy with the ability to run routes, work to the outside, run crossers, run in breaking routes, out breaking routes, what have you. He's not going to be a contested catch guy. He's just not tall enough for that. But I absolutely love his potential as a later round wide receiver in rookie drafts. So hopefully Chev did his homework.
You wouldn't be talking to the legendary ball knower if I didn't do my homework. Not only are we excited about Jayden Reed, but beyond that, he's the best run after the catch receiver in the class, like bar none. He is a dynamite stick. He's more nuanced in his routes, even though he's being used as a deep threat. I think he posted a 61. Hold on, I'm pulling it up on the platform formerly known as Twitter right now because I bookmarked a couple tweets when I saw that I was going to be discussing Mr. Royals. But yeah, rack ability, best in the class. Wheels, best, like one of the best in the class. I think his play speed on film shows up in a way that really like makes me question whether or not like he's going to be. I don't think he's going to be used as like a traditional down the sidelines like big post deep threat, but I think he's one of those guys that they're going to scheme up touches for and reverses. I could see him being used a lot like Jayden Reed gets used for the Green Bay Packers. And I think that if he lands in a place where there's a creative offensive mind, if Dave Canales decides to move on from the Xavier Legette experiment and just, take a flyer on a guy in the 3rd or 4th round, like Jayden Reed, and start using that guy as a gadget guy, like he should have used Xavier Legette, I could see this guy returning on value, and you're not going to have to pay a premium for him at all because most people don't know who he is because he went to Utah State.
Yep, that's one of the reasons that I like him. I love non-power 5 guys because they, especially in your dynasty leagues, they take the world by storm. They're sleepers. You don't see them coming. Everybody knows about Emeka Egbuka. Everybody knows about your power 5 guys. Not a lot of people have heard about Jayden Reed, and unless you're somebody who like does their own research or watches this show, it's likely none of your league mates are going to know who he is anyway. So that's definitely somebody to take advantage of.
So here's NFL draft files on the platform formerly known as Twitter. 17 missed forced tackles in just 7 games. 64.3% of his contested catch attempts he converted in 2024. So that's just a little bit more, a few more feathers in the cap for Mr. Royals. Yeah. Don't ever question whether or not I did my homework for my co-host, but
I didn't question. I just said I hoped.
Oh, I hoped. Yeah. On a
you
whim.
knew I was going to come prepared.
Right. That's called a segue.
Segue. We love it.
Hey, Tiger got out of the cage, bud.
Well, we'll stay in that cage there, Chef, because it's your turn to talk about your guy.
My guy, RJ Harvey, is a guy that the more that I watch him, the more that I I keep seeing a guy that is going to. I'm hoping against hope that he does not run a great 40, even though you turn his tape on and it's just him at UCF running away from people, like jump cut, full speed, hit your head on the goalpost. And to me, I hope that he runs. I said earlier in the show, I hope he runs a 4.57 because we're going to get day 3 draft capital. He lands somewhere with just some schlub. I mean, I've got a list of teams that all need running backs that could, like, this could be, just bear with me here. Hold on. Let's see. Where are we at? There it is.
You're thinking like last year's Bucky Irving.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's what I want. That's what I want. Ever since I missed on Bucky Irving, I have.
Well, it's that concept of that combine was bad. Okay, you got Kyron, you've got Bucky. There's like always one who can have a shit combine. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Chase Brown couldn't pass block at Senior Bowl, becomes a 5th round pick.
Yes. Like, who can we mine? Who can we mine this year?
Yeah. So just looking at some of the divisions, Cowboys, every division, NFC East, everybody but the Eagles, NFC West, everybody but the Seahawks, NFC South, we needed heir apparent to Alvin Kamara. The Panthers need a backup for Chuba. Jonathan Brooks, probably not going to play at all in 2025. NFC North, listen, I'm taking my pants off if he goes to the Vikings. I'm taking them off, and I'm never putting them back on, and I'm putting on the see-through singlet. All right? That's what I'm doing if he goes to the Vikings. The Bears, I'm going to be honest with you. I think he might be a better running back just straight up than DeAndre Swift. Right? Like both of the Steelers running backs, they're both restricted free agents or free agents or whatever. The Bengals only have Chase Brown. I feel very confident that he would supplant Zach Moss. And the Browns only have Jerome Ford. That's if they decide to move on from Nick Chubb, which I think that they will at this point. And like Schultzy's Jags, they could just say, blow it up. Let's just let's just bring in a guy and have him compete with Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby. The Texans, Mixon could be a cap casualty after this year. And that's the one that I've got my eyes on the most because it's an elite offense. Joe Mixon, for as awesome as he was this year, he's going to be 29 going into 2026, and they can get out of his contract after this year, I'm sure, for like less than $10 million dead cap. So, and then the Titans, I love Tajay. I love Tony Pollard. If they bring in someone who's dynamic, like we could be, that could be a situation where we got in mind. And then every AFC West team, every single one. Yeah. Like stick RJ Harvey on the Chiefs because they decide to re-roll and move on from Isaiah Pacheco. Like, how tight will your pants be then, bud?
We would be erect.
That's a draft capital situation right there.
So, yeah, like I see him. I see the ability. I see what he's put on film. I see the elusiveness, the one cut, the explosiveness. Yes. And I think that if he's a guy that falls because of the combine, that is going to be an auto select at any point in round 3 of my rookie drafts.
What if he rises? So instead of what if he becomes like Isaac Guerrero, Kamani Vidal?
Oh, well, I mean, you still could get Guerrero in the 4th round of most of your rookie drafts.
Right, but he was touted as like the all-time like athletic specimen at the combine.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he did get drafted because of combine. Okay.
So would you reach for him then? Like that's the question there, because last year we were talking about Kamani Vidal at this situation, right? Where he rose up now to the 3rd round, in the 2nd round in some drafts I was seeing, honestly. And is he a guy then? Are you that confident in him that you would spend a 3rd round draft capital on him?
Oh, 3rd? Yeah.
Yes, 100%. I would take, if he goes to one of those teams, like if he goes to one of the teams that I named, I would feel comfortable taking him in the middle of mid to late 2nd.
So he's going to be the experts. Get a load of this guy. And you heard it here first from Chev.
Yeah, I got real excited about RJ Harvey. Just the more film that I was able to get into, and I still hadn't gotten into like like game tape, but the cut-ups that I saw on NFL Draft big boards, like I was like, okay.
Well, he's just a touchdown merchant. He had 22 touchdowns last year, 5'9", 208. So he's about 10 pounds heavier than somebody like Devon Achane. I would just want to know how he's going to do with the physicality of the NFL. He projects. I'm hoping, like you say, Chev, day 3 capital. A neat thing for him in my little notes. It's kind of cool because you're spitting bars here. He has that desirable, quick jump cut ability. So that jumped up to me too. He can shift laterally in tight spaces, and he just accelerates upfield off that jump cut. And it's funny enough, you mentioned the Bears talking about being better than DeAndre Swift. And I see a little bit of that dead leg that DeAndre Swift has made a lot of money off of. Another neat thing that I also noticed, Harvey was utilized inside the 5-yard line a lot. He would take direct snaps. So UCF trusted his decision-making in the tight area spaces. Harvey can convert, so it'd be very interesting. My question, Con, would be, can RJ Harvey hold up to the physicality of the NFL? And then how will he grow to cut inside the NFL? He likes to cut outside a lot. How will he develop sometimes into those trenches? I remember Rashad Penny was a player who, discipline-wise, he would just only cut outside and he would home run. So can he just develop his game a little bit at the next level NFL with the Vikings? When you said the Vikings, that's another team. I mentioned the Chargers for Hampton, but the Vikings would be another pants-off situation for this deep running back class. So good call.
Before Chev addresses what you just asked, I just want to say I thought that we as an industry decided that we weren't going to undervalue undersized running backs anymore.
Yeah, I'm there with Devon Achane, man. Love him.
That was what we talked about with Bucky. Remember, it's just we don't care. Bucky Irvin is the greatest. Bucky, and I would think
Mitchell.
I would say that guys like RJ Harvey and Kyle Monangai, like they profile closer to Chase Brown than they do Bucky. I mean, Bucky, obviously, you saw he was lightning in a bottle at Oregon, but I think these guys get the tough yards. They're better between the tackles than a guy coming out. I think he's better between the tackles than DeAndre Swift was. Just at prospect for prospect, not comparing what DeAndre Swift's been able to do in the NFL, but prospect for prospect, I think that he's better between the tackles, and I think he would be more of a comp towards what Chase Brown was doing at Illinois. So I think he'll be fine, even if it takes like a little bit of time for him to adapt and say, okay, cool, this is a gap scheme. I have to keep, I've got to get my shoulder square and, get 4 or 5, get the tough yards. I think he'll be able to do that because I see advanced level vision and marrying his feet and his eyes with the way that the block's set up. So I think that that's going to lend itself to success too.
You want day 3 capital, and can he sneak? Essentially, you almost want him to be sneakily in a running back room that's appealing, but also where there's kind of a top dog already there. So then you can just scoop, right?
Yes. I want people to say what I said about Rashad White in 2024. I want people to say there's a guy there already. There's no way that this guy's gonna be able to usurp the guy that's been there and been productive. That's what I'm looking for with RJ Harvey.
So you're saying there's a chance.
And I'm on mute and no longer there. So let's. I was talking for about 10 minutes there, but I'm just shitting you. No, I'm good.
He just assumed. You were just like assuming you were adjusting for the Canadian lag, but then you realized, oh shit, it's not actually working.
Exactly. Well, considering Canadian lag, I'm going to talk about that because, this is, I started diving into the prospects about 2 weeks ago. So I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball. So I want to get some of your guys' opinion on my guy that I chose because he's a prospect that I've watched some film on. I watched, some tape, and what I saw, especially in the 2023 season, was really impressive. So, he got onto a team. They went 3-9 last year. and he still scored 13 touchdowns on a team that lost. And I'm talking about Ollie Gordon. And from what I saw from his 2023 season, 1,700 rushing yards. He led the nation, 4.8 yards per carry, 15 touchdowns. And then it just kind of fell apart last year for him. He was an intriguing prospect. He's got a, good combination of size, strength, agility that sets him apart from, the typical power back, 6'2", 225 pounds. He's built to wear down defenders, but also possesses some good footwork from what I saw. So, with that great season in 2023, coming into this year, people had some high expectations. He fell down the draft board. Now I'm looking for him to, look for like a day 2 draft capital. And I'd be really interested to see where he lands, because if he gets that kind of draft capital, I'd be really intrigued on Ollie Gordon as kind of a guy that can sneak into that potentially, mid-round, second round, early second round pick here. And if you can get him there, I think that's a good, situation. What are your guys' thoughts? Schultzy, what do you think?
Yeah, you don't know which dude you're going to get here. Obviously, 23 was like electric and took a huge step back this year. This is going to sound a little crazy, and I'm prefacing it with he's not Derrick Henry. Running style-wise, he likes to go run downhill, find that second level, go attack, right? When you watch Derrick Henry, like the Titans did a really good job blocking up for Derrick Henry. I'm not trying to sit here and say scheme has aided Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is an absolute beast. Not disparaging Derrick Henry. But Ollie Gordon has the same kind of style as he wants to go find the gap, hit the gap, go and find the second level. He's obviously not Derrick Henry. So, with that said, I'm going to be looking largely for landing spot on him. If he goes to a team who can block well, who has, who's got some opportunity for him, yeah, I'm going to be pretty intrigued. But if he goes to a team that doesn't have a line, I don't know, man. I'm just not sure I'm going to be – I think there's going to be someone in my leagues who's going to be willing to reach higher than I am if he's on a bad team.
Yeah, I think landing spot's huge. If they could be on an offense that can get into scoring position, he's going to be in the red zone. He's probably going to be the power back they're going to rely on, and some upside there for sure. That's kind of what I was leaning towards. I'm glad you reinforced that. Anybody else has got something else to add to Ollie Gordon there?
I do.
Well, sorry. Yep.
Bigz, because he's kind of profile that I know that you kind of like, so I'm interested to hear your take on him.
That was the crux of my spear, bro. So I was just gonna say he's gonna be at the Senior Bowl. I'm gonna have film on him. He's a junior coming out, so he's a third-year declare. That is essential at the running back position. He's also 6'2", 225 pounds. That is also essential in the NFL. The number of people who finish as top 24 running backs, at least at some point in their career in fantasy football, over 225 or with a specific BMI, vastly outweighs smaller guys. Now, again, we're not going to underdraft small guys anymore, but the exact profile, the reason that I was in on Braylon Allen last year, the reason he hits those marks. So even before you start getting to performance on the field, Ollie Gordon is the prototypical 3-down bell cow, like one backfield running back. We've seen it year over year over year. Guys like that, they tend to not break down. If he can throw some like incredible combine stats out there. The other thing is you have to look at the team that he was a part of. He played for Oklahoma State. He did see his average per carry go down from 6.1 to 4.6. You saw his touchdowns drop from 21 to 13, but you saw his carries drop from 285 to 190. You saw his receptions drop by 10. So it's not necessarily anything to do with Ollie Gordon. It probably has more to do with Oklahoma State. And we saw the same thing happen a couple years ago with Blake Corum and the fantastic year that he put together in 2022. And then in 2023, he took a step back and everybody went, oh my God, what's wrong with Blake Corum? Well, first of all, he was coming off an injury. Maybe Ollie Gordon had an injury that nobody knew about. The other thing is that Donovan Edwards, Blake Corum's mate in that Michigan backfield, was not coming off an injury, and he saw a commensurate decrease in his statistics. That was because of the Michigan offensive line, not necessarily anything about Blake Corum's profile. So it's very, very possible that Ollie Gordon is absolutely the running back that we saw 2 years ago. He just has a little bit of dip in production because of where he was at in Oklahoma State. So watch for his combine numbers. He has the potential to be the RB1 of this class still. We watched Braylon Allen go through the same damn thing. 2 years in, he was the RB1. And then after his junior year, everybody was like, well, maybe it's Jonathan Brooks or Travion Henderson, and Braylon Allen's falling. Still my favorite guy in the class. So stay tuned to the channel because I will have Ollie Gordon updates throughout the rookie season, and we'll see where this guy lands because he could be the steal of the draft.
Going into this year, he was the RB1, and I think that Oklahoma State was just so shitty as an actual football team that there was no way that he was there. Teams knew that you had to stop Ollie Gordon, and coupled with the fact that he was the only viable weapon and they had one of the worst offensive lines in the entire Big 12, I think that he was destined to fail. Like, you could still see flashes. I think he also put on going into this year, he put on 10 pounds to beef up a little bit, which took him from 215 to 225. And you saw a little bit of the loss of explosivity, for lack of a better term. So I think he'll probably come back down to between 215 and 218. He'll run like a low 4.5 or a high 4.4, and he'll dazzle people with his lateral agility and quickness. And yeah, I think that instead of going and having to spend what would have been like the 102 between the 101 and the 104 for him, now you're going to be able to get him in the second round, and he's probably going to go to a much more ideal landing spot. But honestly, he's the type of if you go back and look at his film from 2023, that's the type of thing that makes you excited for a guy to have a backfield to himself like the Raiders. It's like, they suck. They're going to give that guy the ball a whole bunch. He's going to end up with 19 fantasy points, even come hell or high water, and he's going to win you leagues, and it's not going to be a sexy pick at all. And you're going to look back and be like, dude, he was the RB6 in points per game, and we should have seen this coming because he was awesome, but people moved off of him because he statistically, we faded him because he didn't have as good of a year, his junior year as he did his sophomore year. So, one, stop looking at people's college production and trying to project that to the NFL.
Right.
Look at the film. Look at what they actually are as players. But
yeah, because that's what I was looking at, and that's why it was surprising on where he's sitting right now. I saw how efficient he was there, and what I see on the film, especially in the 2023 season, it was very, very good. So Bigz, yeah. I like that insight because I was really intrigued to see what you had to say about Ollie Gordon, because I know he kind of fits the bill of the type of running back you really like headed into the league. And I that was why I picked him. I was really intrigued about his profile. I like his running style, and I think in the right system and the right fit, he could be a knockout home run hit. So
imagine him with Ben Johnson in Las Vegas with second round draft capital and a new GM, Zamir White, who Alexander Madison is not going to, right? It's a perfect landing spot for him. It's his opportunity to just to have everything that he needs in place to be that dude.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, guys. Well, that was awesome conversation about the rookies. Now let's talk about some stock downs that, we unfortunately have to get over because, there's some players here that, are on the downslope after a rough season, and we got to talk about them and uncover why. And let's start with Coach. Who do you have?
Hey, stock down, Jayden Reed. Underdog Fantasy had a couple weeks ago a perfect tweet that summarized the Jayden Reed experience. Weeks 1 through 9, Reed was wide receiver 6 overall. And you were talking top 2-3 round ADP in 2025. Weeks 10 through 15, wide receiver 48 overall. Jayden Reed at the DD Fantasy Football, we have this Trinity score for receivers and tight ends. If you are a 6 or higher, that gets you going in the right direction. Jayden Reed with a 5.12 Trinity score. 14 games played, 12.8 PPR points per game, 18% air yard share, 17% target share. So there's just this flattening. Nobody can really get into the 20 and 22 and 25% target share. I saw Chev do a really good video on Tucker Kraft. I think somebody's rise opposite this could be Tucker Kraft. 7.15 yak per reception, 2.05 yards per route run. Jayden Reed just not consistent. A brutal run out for him. In Green Bay's offense, it's a race to who can get the flattest exposure. We're all hoping for that 15% target share to push to 20. Plus, we want consistency. Reed had 73 targets. That ranked 52nd. Reed was 34th in receiving yards. First in catchable target rate, so you can't knock Jordan Love and for Reed on that. Reed was 6th in yards per target at 11.1, but just 160 yards rushing for Jayden Reed. So he was supposed to be this next new prime Deebo Samuel, and it wasn't sacrilege, right? It wasn't considered blasphemy. From 2021 to 2023, prime Deebo rushed for 365, 232, and 225. So 160 yards just doesn't cut it. Jayden Reed only had 7 touchdowns. He should be amassing more between receiving and that rushing game. And Jayden Reed, he just didn't boost up like we wanted. Just a steep drop-off from being wide receiver 6 overall in those first 9 weeks. Stock down for him. And what is more difficult is in redraft, people who are bullish on Reed, his first half, then you have the second half. What's the price going to be? I think the price is going to be too inflated to be palatable because people are going to cling to what has been, what could be, more so hopium there. 4 for 46 in that playoff loss, nothing inspiring. I'll go around the room. Bigz, this is a fun one. All things equal, Jayden Reed in a 25-second or Jalen Waddle? Who do you got in Dynasty?
I'm not the one to ask this one. I'm going with Reed in the second.
Yeah, because are you low on Waddle too?
I am out on Waddle.
So okay, I did that on purpose. I figured. Okay, I figured I'd just
Waddle.
Good content generation though.
Today on Fridays is a Waddle denier show exclusively.
All right, Chev, Jayden Reed in an early 25-second or Jameson Williams?
Jameson Williams.
Very nice. What if it was a late first and Jayden Reed for Jameson Williams?
I've got to take Jayden Reed at that point.
Okay, with the late first. All right,
yeah.
Beautiful. Mike, Jayden Reed and a second or Terry McLaurin?
Oh my God. I mean, that's a tough one. I'm really high on Terry McLaurin, but fuck. I mean, that's depending on the build, honestly. Like if I'm contending and I need the upside, I'm taking Terry McLaurin. Even if I'm kind of middle of the pack, I'm probably still leaning towards Terry because I think he's got the most trade upside. So yeah, I'm going to take Terry unless I'm fully in rebuild mode.
Now, what if I upped it Jayden Reed in a first for Terry McLaurin?
Well, the first, I think, helps solidify that deal. Because I was really high on Jayden Reed. I just think the scheme's not there. And maybe Green Bay realizes that down the line and realize they have to like showcase or condense their targets because, it's not working out the way they're spreading the ball. Maybe they need to get the ball in the hands of their playmakers a little bit more and give them the confidence because getting shuffled in and out of the lineup, not playing full snaps might be hurting their confidence, and getting Jordan Love in a rhythm might be something that they have to consider moving on. And if that's the case, then I think Jayden Reed's the number one target in that offense, and he's the most talented there. I was high on Jayden Reed heading into this season, and after the first couple of games there, I quickly moved him into my top 12 dynasty, and that fills it out really fast. So he's got the talent, got the upside.
Yeah.
I just think he needs to have some concentrated targets and realize that he's the best playmaker on the field in the receiving game for the Packers.
Yeah, so you hit on something there, a lack of consistency, but also we talk about alignment. When we talked about Luther Burden, we want to have scheme fit to match the talent. In Green Bay, it seems like we have talent, but we also need to have a little bit more scheme fit there for Jayden Reed. So multiple things have to happen to get the key to fit in the jam, to open up the door. Now, Schultzy, assume this is 1.5 tight end premium, Alec Pierce and Jamison Williams, or Jayden Reed and Cade Otton. Cade Otton, 6 top 12 tight end 1 weeks in 2024.
That was Jamison, and what was the other piece?
Alec Pierce or Jayden Reed and Cade Otton, 1.5 tight end premium.
Oh, I'm gonna go for the Otton side with the tight end premium tagged on. Okay. Yeah, he had a lot of spike weeks there and some decent targets there for a couple weeks, and I just not. And I mean, you're offering 2 boomer bust guys in return for that. Jamison is definitely elevating himself to be more than that, but I still like the other side better.
And Jamison Williams, 4 top 12 weeks, but Eucordian out. It was so spread out for the entirety of the season. I know JMO was a stock up for Chev. So earlier I had asked Reed in that second or Reed in that first for Jamison Williams, just trying to get a pulse there. So just feeling the market. Seems like there's some maneuverability within the trades that I laid out between the group here. There's a little bit there for Jayden Reed, but there's a lot there for the other side. For me, my stock down, though, is Jayden Reed. We'll see if he's a buy for people because, of course, the price can become palatable at a certain point. So I'll be curious to see what that price is. For those listening, you got a couple ideas just right there.
JMO is my must-have 2025, and I would trade him straight up for Jayden Reed.
1-to-1. Yeah.
I do want to point out that on July 26th in my home league, I traded away Jayden Reed for the pick that got me Brock Bowers.
Oh, chef's
yeah,
beautiful.
Wow.
I won't talk about the Kenneth Walker for Blake Corum piece of that. I'm just gonna.
Chef, do you want to add anything to that piece?
No, I mean, I think that this is honestly Green Bay is trying to figure out their identity. I don't think that they fully understood I don't think that they fully understand how to utilize all their offensive pieces. I mean, they're still trying. Honestly, Jordan Love's figuring out what he is as a quarterback. And I think that showed in their play calling where they just defaulted to Josh Jacobs in a cloud of dust and they started winning football games. And so what we got on the front end of the season, that was a whole lot of high variance, Jordan Love putting the ball in harm's way. They're gonna try to avoid that as much as possible. And I think that the offense is gonna start. I'm reaching almost true belief levels of what Tucker Kraft could be in 2025 is what I'm trying to say here. And that means that I need to move off of all of Green Bay's other what will be ancillary options, because when you start alluding to a Travis Kelce, George Kittle-esque, not George Kittle, because George Kittle does it on less than 100 targets a year, but you start talking about a Travis Kelce role where we could be talking 125 plus targets for a guy who obviously is very special with the ball in his hands. Like, that's the piece that I want, and I'm selling the other pieces for whatever I can get outside of Josh Jacobs.
We don't talk about Tucker Kraft on this show.
Yes, we do.
Hey, how about Mason Taylor? Just a duplicate in this draft of Tucker Kraft coming out.
We are no longer allowed to talk about Tucker Kraft. All right, let's get into Schultzy's stock down.
My stock down's Travis Etienne. I just don't think we're gonna ever, not ever, but for a very long time, I don't think we're gonna see his value be this low. And now is the time to grab him. There's a couple reasons here. You look back at the seasons we just saw Saquon and Derrick Henry churn out, and now Etienne's not the talent these guys are. Very talented guy, but he's not those two blue chip players. But you're looking at running back some bad teams going to a good position and exploding, right? We just saw Etienne. What was he, running back 4 last year? I think
He was up there.
Yep.
Yeah, like we've all seen it. We've seen what this guy can do. It was just an absolute shitstorm of a season in Jacksonville, and the offense was a mess, and Doug Peterson was a mess. And look, there's a couple of options here. They're going to hire an offensive dude like Ben Johnson or Liam Cohen, probably. All indications are they're going to go offensive side with the hire here. Both of those two dudes have great track records.
Liam Cohen.
I want Liam Cohen so bad.
I'd rather Todd Monken.
Even Todd Monken, like, this got a great track record with some running backs here. But with Ben Johnson and Cohen, especially looking at the dual usage, both guys have put 2 running backs into fantasy relevance. And you're looking at Travis Etienne paired with Tank Bigsby. So both of these coaches coming in are going to offer a huge boost to the run game, I think, right away. And then the other option here is he's not a Jaguar. And if he's not a Jaguar, he may be going to somewhere where he's going to get that boost like Saquon to the Eagles, once again, not that impactful, but like that type of boost where he's going to fall into, like, real life football is kind of like Dynasty. When you're ready to go, slot your running back in, and now you're ready to fuck people up, right? So we just saw it play out with 2 teams adding veteran running backs and just absolutely slapping people with them.
Yeah.
What if Etienne goes to the Vikings?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say, Schultzy. Travis Etienne on the Vikings is immediately in top 12 dynasty conversations going into draft season in 2025.
And RJ Harvey to the Jags.
RJ Harvey to the Jags. Pair him up with
And Ollie Gordon to the Raiders.
Hey, I'm seriously though. Like, we can't keep doing this. Otherwise, clear the singlets coming out, and you guys aren't gonna like what happens.
We're waiting for the nipple tassels. You could take those out at least right now.
All right, pants off. All right, my bad. But yeah, like I don't think that it's over for Travis Etienne. I just think that this was the bottom fell out. We feel bamboozled, and we got to figure out a way. We got to figure out a way to overcome that and find some sort of medium to where we can get to a place where we're at least comfortable discussing, maybe potentially thinking about acquiring him in some form in Dynasty, because he's still only 25 years old.
Right. The recency bias here is real.
Yeah. You can't sell him.
And if you're going to move on him, I've been playing on this bit for a couple of weeks. We've had just such awesome discussions that our stock up and down has kind of pushed back a little bit, right? So, like, part of me putting him here is like, look, you've got a couple of weeks. Either the Jags are going to hire someone, and then if it's not that, you got a little bit longer that you're going to figure out if they're going to keep him or move on, or where's he going to be, whatever. You need to get him before those dominoes fall, because the value right now is in the shitter.
It's the lowest its value will ever be. And we remember, like, he's 1 year removed, like we said, of a RB4 finish. Like, he has that potential again. Even if he stays with the Jags, what's an injury to Tank Bigsby do to him in an offense with a better offensive mind? I just think that, his value right now is at an all-time low. If you can get him on the cheap right now, do it, because it's only going to increase. And like you said, there's an opportunity that he could even be moved into a situation that's even better. And the Jags were a mess this year. We know that. A lot of us had optimism headed into this year. We're going to have that same type of optimism, but maybe cautiously proceed this time around with it. But I like Travis Etienne headed into this year, and I think he's a guy that I'm going to be looking at getting in a lot of my lineups if I can acquire him for the right price. I'm not overpaying for him because I think it's going to be hard for him to get into the top 12 unless he goes into a situation where he becomes the bell cow once again. But I do see him being a contributor in the top 24 weekly from here on out, even in Jacksonville.
And that's kind of why I said that I would prefer Monken to go to the Jaguars than Cohen or Ben Johnson.
Yes. Yeah.
Notwithstanding the fact that I want Ben Johnson in Vegas, but the fact that Todd Monken operates as more of like a one back with a spell, and Tank Bigsby and Etienne physically profile as basically two Spider-Men pointing at each other. There needs to be some clarification in that backfield, and part of what. And we've talked about this ad nauseum between us hosts. The usage for Travis Etienne this year did not suit his skills or the things that made him great in 2023, and that was absolutely a scheme issue. So a new coach coming in, especially somebody like Todd Monken, is going to look at his game tape from 2023 as he's building that offensive line in front of him and say, we know that this is the dude. Tank Bigsby is more of a pinball. This guy is a guy who can run between the tackles with a cromulent offensive line, but he's also got that big play ability when he led the league for 2 years in 30 plus and 40 plus yard rushes. That is what needs to be utilized with Travis Etienne, and he needs to find that that's the case. He was not deployed that way in this 2024 Jacksonville Jaguars offense, which is mind-boggling because they knew exactly what they had. Why were they running Tank Bigsby as not a 30% like snap share guy? It was Travis Etienne the whole time. Now
you're coming off a season where it just worked. I mean, what are we doing?
Right. Right.
Well, it worked for the first half of the season until he wore down, right?
That's an important point. That's an important point.
And I have a personal vested interest in this because in my home league, I have both Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne. If they have a situation where somebody like Ben Johnson or Liam Cohen comes in, who typically run a backfield that is made up of two separately profiled running backs, I'm selling both of them. If they have Todd Monken that comes in and that we know that Tank Bigsby is going to like return to a lesser role, then I'm selling Tank Bigsby. If we have a situation come in where Travis Etienne moves on to a different team, I'm selling Tank Bigsby. So I like the upside of Travis Etienne and the fact that he can return to his production levels of before. But it's all going to like come out over the next month.
Yeah. All right. We're going to move on to Biggs's. And I got a little theory here after you gave us a little sneak peek last week on your stock down. And I got a little theory. I spent that night contemplating, like, why the hell would Bigz have this guy as a stock down? And then I understand why. And I'm going to hear it from him first. And I'm going to see if that, reassures my premonition.
I mean, the answer is for the brand, bro. You can expect me to bring the controversy. My stock down is Ashton Jeanty. Whoa, what'd I just do there? All right. You're all going, what is he talking about? RB1 in the class? Everybody like consensus RB1 Ashton Jeanty? Yeah, stock down. Now, when I say stock down, do I mean he's now RB2? No. Do I mean he's out of the first round? No. Do I mean he's not valuable? No. But let's break this down a little bit. So a few weeks ago, Boise State, they're not a Power 5 school, and they went into the playoffs and they played against Penn State. And Ashton Jeanty rushed 30 times. Oh, but he had 105 yards. Yeah, but that was 3.5 yards per clip. That's not getting it done. Well, it was against Penn State's defense. Okay, but Penn State just recently played Oregon, and they gave up 169 yards on 35 carries to Oregon's dual running backs. Let's look a little bit deeper at what Penn State has done, and they played against Notre Dame in the college football playoff, and they gave up another 166 yards to Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen. Okay, so we're talking about a team that was not that stout against the run. We're talking about these guys got boat raced by running backs in the last month of the college football season. And guess who didn't do that? Ashton Jeanty. He was absolutely snuffed. Again, that doesn't mean he's not the RB1 of this class. That doesn't mean that he's not going to, come out and just be a phenom. But it does mean that I have kind of adjusted my goal setting for my rookie drafts. And that is, if I have a number 1 pick or a number 2 pick, I'm not drafting Ashton Jeanty. I'm letting somebody else do it, and I'm grabbing Tet McMillan or somebody else because I'm taking a wide receiver and counting on running back depth of this class later on. We talked about it earlier at the top of the show. All it's done as far as his stock down is concerned is flipping how I'm going to be strategizing owning Ashton Jeanty. Now, if I have the number 1 pick, I'm going to be trying to trade that back to the number 2 or the number 3 so that I still keep a high pick, plus I increase my draft value within that draft. If I'm in a startup draft, that's going to have more to do with what his landing spot is and what his perceived role is going to be. But typically the startup drafts, they're not quite as sharp as your home league. So in my rookie drafts, I'm absolutely devaluing Ashton Jeanty and going for somebody who is going to be we're looking at positional scarcity out of this rookie class rather than somebody who has the production profile.
And that's exactly the premonition that I contemplated after you said that the other day, Bigz, because I said to myself, I was like, well, why would he think that way? And then I looked about, it's the most valuable asset in this draft class, for one, in a draft class that is so stacked. After we, look at this running back situation, we've got such the prototypical, beautiful, running back stature here. We got a ton of guys that are like over 6 feet, 220. This is a perfect draft class for that. And there's so much depth there where there's so much, the wide receiver position, not so much, especially on the top end talent. So when you can maybe trade back that pick to get a value, I could see that being a valuable situation. I mean, I'm not downplaying Jeanty's prominence, but if you can make bank on that, like Bigz potentially could be doing, especially after seeing them against Penn State, like he mentioned, some tougher defenses. We haven't really seen that, and that was a true test, and maybe that decreases a little bit. So maybe capitalize on that value. But that was what I was thinking, and I think you definitely explained that well there, Bigz.
Good. I'm glad.
He landed the plane. I was concerned. I was very concerned. I was
you were like
sideways.
Yeah, like honestly, your facial recognition there, Chev, was like you were on a plane that was going down the whole time.
Yeah, I was really concerned. I was like, wait, is he about to say Ashton Jeanty's not good? Because here's the thing. I think personally that this is, he's very similar to what Ezekiel Elliott was coming out of Ohio State as a player. And that is the reason that Ezekiel Elliott was so awesome his first couple years is because he was running behind one of the best offensive lines in football. If Ashton Jeanty, you hit on this point already, if Ashton Jeanty goes to a situation, for me, keeping the one-on-one is completely situational, as you said. Like, if he goes to a wonderful offensive line that's, top 5 in run blocking EPA, and he's going to be getting 370 touches as a rookie, then yes, I can see a world where I'm taking Ashton Jeanty. No, I've got a Post-it note and it says Ashton Jeanty no matter what with the 101, and that's what I'm holding on to. But if he goes somewhere that's less than ideal, then he's not He's not Saquon. He's not Bijan. He's not Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't think he's a world beater. I think he's a really good running back. He's not, he's not Derrick Henry with insane volume, which we don't have to get into Derrick Henry's usage his first few years because it was just, I have to go to sleep in a little while and I'll be up just pissed for hours about it. But I think that, that's a very important point. Like you can move back, maybe potentially if somebody's got 2 first-round picks or acquire another first-round pick and move back a couple spots in the draft and still get a guy like Omarion Hampton, who we're all very, very high on, or acquire more mid-round capital that we talked about earlier and get a steal late. I think that you're maximizing game theory by capitalizing on the value of that 101.
Well, let's talk real quick about what happened in the 2024 draft. So your results may differ, but if I look at my home league and the first few running backs off the board, they went Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson, Kamani Vidal, Ray Davis, Isaac Guerrero, Jalen Wright, Marshawn Lloyd, right? Obviously Ashton Jeanty slides in ahead of all those guys. Even if Jonathan Brooks wasn't coming off the injury last year and had played a full season for Carolina, Ashton Jeanty slides in ahead of all those guys. But guess 100%. What? So does Omarion Hampton.
Yes.
So does Caleb Johnson. So does Travion Henderson. No matter how you look at this running back class, there are 4 or 5 guys at least who are better than anybody that came off the board last year, except for Braylon Allen. And I'm talking about talent-wise because obviously we saw, Bucky Irving have the production. But speculating going into your draft, there was no running back in 2024 that would slot into the top 6 of this year's class. So it's a deep running back class, and you're going to be able to get value. If you slide back 3 or 4 picks and you grab Omarion Hampton or Travion Henderson, are you going to be upset that you missed out on Ashton Jeanty? Probably not when you're pairing him with Tet McMillan, right? So that's it. There you go.
Well, essentially what you're doing is, and this was something that presented itself in the best ball streets in 2024, you had CMC at the 101. If you didn't select CMC at the 101, you didn't get him. Maybe sometimes you would get the opportunity for the 102. And this is all just entry point psychology. You will not get, so by virtue of just being a slight hair off of Ashton Jeanty, in all likelihood, Bigz is going to have sub 10%, sub 5%, maybe close to 0% of Ashton Jeanty, just from the stipulation of how many 101s does he have and how many times is he deciding to actually click the button. I do think it would be prudent to not select Tet McMillan 101 over Ashton Jeanty. You did mention something. You landed the plane when you said, hey, you would explore the trade option. I would almost think you might want to go into a little bit of game theory of still take Jeanty and then post between the post-rookie draft, training camp hype, preseason, somewhere along the season, have some faith to unload Jeanty for a haul. That would be the one place where I would differ, but I see where your head's at. I am pro everything you said about lowering in the tier because, okay, Omarion Hampton plus, Caleb Johnson plus. You're trying to maximize and roster build. This is that opportunity to do that. Think of how many people with Caleb Williams or Marvin Harrison Jr. could have done a move like that. And if you look at it today, it sounds sacrilegious to say prior to, which is part of what Bigz sounds like. It does sound a little blasphemous or sacrilegious to the market. But now on the other side, it doesn't sound so crazy to have gotten a haul and done this process. Looking back, 2020 vision, Marvin Harrison Jr., you get a haul. Caleb Williams, you get a haul. This dynasty process, it can be Ashton Jeanty in 2027. Maybe it could be a Jeremiah Smith. You just take that approach of squeezing maximum value.
Bijan Robinson in 2023, Arch Manning next year. Dare I say, It's Chalk's Chalk. Speaking of landing planes, though, also when you're done with this video, go search on YouTube planes landing in wind, and yeah, it's fun. It's a fun time.
I was gonna say that was really brilliant. I thought that was a really savvy take from you, Bigz, and maximizing. A lot of people here, in the fantasy football space, has Jeanty as this,
Unicorn
generational talent. Okay, and just like Marvin Harrison Jr. was last year, and we saw how that panned out. So, what's the hit rate on these guys? And you know what I mean? You can get a haul. And I like Jeremiah's approach to the situation. Maybe draft them and then hold on and increase that value and get them for a haul. But if that's your plan to turn them over, I think that might be a very, very savvy move. And I enjoyed, digging into it before you spilt the beans for us there, Bigz, and then trying to predict where your head was at. So it was awesome.
Well, the other ideal example of this is 2023 when Bijan Robinson was the de facto 101 in all of the rookie drafts, and look who came after him: Jahmyr Gibbs and Devon Etienne. You were getting Devon Etienne in the second round. If you are getting that kind of running back return in the second round, how mad are you that you didn't get Bijan? I'm not. Somehow our home league commissioner keeps getting the 101 every single year right ahead of my 102. And the last couple of years, he's drafted Bijan and Marvin Harrison Jr. And I've turned around and I've gotten Jahmyr Gibbs, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Malik Neighbors, Jaden Daniels. Like, I'm not upset that I missed out on Bijan this year because Jahmyr Gibbs was right there. Brock Bowers, I made a trade to get into the middle of the first round. So maximizing value, you can come up with two generational pieces out of the same draft. It's not unheard of, but you can't be married to the guy that you have in your sights. You have to be willing to move back and know that you did the analysis, or you at least watched the Dynasty Pulse.
And you're taking advantage of market psychology, where since Saquon Barkley, essentially every year we've had to have this label generational on one player per draft class, it seems. So you're taking advantage of the hyperinflation of the generational prospect, and it also coincides with being right at the top of the market. So, hey, in finance, they say they don't ring the bell at the top, but if you have rung the bell at the top for that process, you've profited greatly.
It's signal versus noise, baby.
Yeah. All right, Chev. Let's hear what the legendary ball knower knows about stock down.
Well, this one is going to cause me great pain and gnashing of teeth. And beyond that, I'm going to burn a couple Xavier Legette onesies that I may have made for my rookie drafts this year.
Are you going to dance in the rumpus room?
Yeah, I can't stay on the Xavier Legette train anymore. And this might feel reactionary, but just what I saw from him, it wasn't he was a big, strong, fast freak athlete who, in spite of the fifth-year breakout, he was putting it on SEC DBs, and we all know that the SEC traditionally has been the junior varsity for the NFL for defenders, at least. They sucked this year, but that being said, I just didn't see enough from Xavier Legette. I saw him lose in too many contested catch situations. I saw him lose, just not be able to get anything going in space. He had a stretch where he caught 3 touchdowns in 4 games, and that kind of buoyed his value as a fantasy asset. But in gotta have it situations too many times, I just saw him lose, and for me, that's a huge red flag. Like, I could deal with him not having, he 84 targets as a rookie. That's cool. Like, but watching him lose in that many contested catch situations when there was no other option. I mean, I'm a big Coker stan. I'm a big Coca-Cola fan, if you will. And he's a much more complete receiver and equipped to help out Bryce Young for the future than Xavier Legette to me. Xavier Legette to me needs to be used more in a Debo, Jayden Reed gadget type of role as opposed to being a real wide receiver. And that's something that I missed on. And now I think that he's going to be, squirrel eating Laviska Shenault.
Well, you hit on a great point. You hit it on a great point because you have Debo Samuel. There's archetype players who are out there. Jayden Reed is somebody who it wasn't sacrilegious to say that, but you have to still have the result. And what's wild is Xavier Legette has come along, whether he hasn't been utilized properly or he's just not going to be a guy who hits. He comes up to mind as well in these archetype of players. Reverse line correlation in betting, where you are over receiving yards, under receptions, over receptions, and under receiving yards. You go the opposite way just because they don't get enough volume, and you can take advantage of that. Xavier Legette is just one of those reverse line correlation players where he's never going to have an explosive ceiling, but he's going to have these wild games where, hey, it's a 3.5 line, and he'll hit 3 catches, and then he'll hit his over-under receiving yards. He'll hit over just because he makes a big boom splash play. But when you're looking for 9 catches, 10 catches, double-digit targets, you're not getting that out of him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, come on. Never, and we're talking about stock down. We're not talking about, like, league washouts. There's still a chance for a third-year breakout at some point. Come on.
I'm not saying there's not, but like the things that I like to look at, just for me, like his yards per route run. He was playing a lot of snaps. Okay, he was playing a lot of snaps. Yards per route run 1.22. Formation adjusted yards per route run 0.90. And this is with Bryce going full Bama Bryce the last like 5 or 6 games. Yeah. And they needed someone to catch passes other than Adam Thielen to be able to do something in the offense besides separate between 8 and 14 yards down the field. They needed a guy, and he couldn't do it. Okay?
Well, and again, this is a direct quote from Matt Harmon. Maybe not direct, but paraphrased.
Maybe not a quote.
You may not be able to predict improvement, but it does happen.
That's fair.
I guess he just
route win rate 31.6%.
It's better than 29%.
I think for me, for a traits guy, like a lot of people saw a slow burn on Legette here, right? Like there wasn't many people out there who thought he was going to hit the ground run and take the league by storm. Like a lot of people saw like, hey, there's going to be some growth here that needs to happen. But I think for me, it was like, where was it? What did he show us? Like, I can't remember one play the dude made this year that I was like, okay, I'm seeing it, right? Like it was just that quiet.
I'm going to say this, and it's going to feel terrible. But, like, the only difference between him and Quentin Johnston's rookie year is that nobody was watching Carolina games.
It's fair.
Hopefully he can get the picture next year and turn it around.
Hey-o.
All right, I guess.
No, I know what you're saying, Schultzy, because it's like you look at a guy like Marvin Mims. The first 3 games of his rookie season, we saw something. There's something there.
Right.
The Broncos aren't using it, but there's something there. And Xavier Legette was like mid to lower just about everything he did.
All right. Do you want to hear who my stock down is?
I do.
No.
Very much so.
It's DK Metcalf.
There we go.
Are you saying that DK Metcalf won't even be the best Ole Miss wide receiver in 2025?
No, I don't think he will be.
Best Ole Miss wide receiver in 2024.
Yeah, or in 2023. So, well, we'll have to see. I mean, his stock is down. especially in dynasty formats. There's some trends that have emerged this past season to me that has been a strong indicator that he is no longer that top 10 wide receiver. He's faltered in the second half of this season. He struggled to get consistency. And obviously he was overshadowed with the breakout of JSN. We all saw that coming, and we're happy it did happen. But, Metcalf, he did still show flashes of that big playability, so I'm not completely out on him. But, his stock is declining, and people that have Metcalf shares are probably, looking at them as like, hey, this is a very volatile situation. I paid a lot of draft capital to get him or within trade or whatnot. And I think his value is going right down. And honestly, he's not even a guy at this stage I'm looking at even acquiring, just based off of the situation in Seattle, the emergence of JSN, the unknown in the offense. He had a career low 5 touchdowns as being a red zone threat. They weren't using him in that situation much. 1 touchdown since week 7, no 100-yard game since week 6. JSN outpaced Metcalf in targets, touchdowns, and just was an overall better wide receiver. So he once was that dominant fantasy profile. I think he's on shaky grounds now with the rise of JSN, the lack of consistency. I think it's clear that his role has been diminished, and I am very uncertain what to do with my Metcalf shares. So yeah, I'm kind of out.
Well, DK Metcalf he had some injury issues this year. One thing that I'm going to be looking at very closely is what happens with the offensive coordinator situation in Seattle right now. My guy, Clint Kubiak, he's the front runner for the position. So let's break that down a little bit. Clint Kubiak didn't have a healthy quarterback or healthy wide receivers this year, but we did see what he was able to do very early on in the New Orleans Saints season with what Derek Carr was doing throwing the ball and what Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave were doing out in space or in their routes and everything. Now, you go back the year previous, we're talking Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, and Deebo Samuel coexisting with George Kittle. Take out Kittle from that part of the equation. Now you're looking at Seattle with DK Metcalf and JSN. If DK's value is down right now, I am targeting him all over the place because we know what he can put on the field. He's still pretty young. He's an absolute wagon. He's a physical specimen, and he does have skills that age well up until age 32. So he's still got some gas left in the tank. And in a Clint Kubiak offense, dude's a mastermind. I look for him to deploy, especially without a George Kittle style tight end, unless they acquire one, go out and get somebody in the draft, like the kid from Texas or Fannin or Oronde Gadsden Jr. or something like that. You can have 2 guys that are in that wide receiver room that are both producing on the level of a Jamar Chase and T. Higgins when they're together, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, whatever. We've seen it before, and if there's any candidates for who can do that, it's going to be DK and JSN.
My fear with him is the contract uncertainty because I believe his deal is very similar to what Deebo's deal is. Deebo, Terry McLaurin, and DK all got the same deal. So beyond this year, I don't know that there's very much contract certainty or guaranteed money left for him. Obviously, the talents are there. I mean, he's the freakiest. Anytime that you're getting compared to Calvin Johnson, that speaks for itself in terms of your physical prowess. I think that at some point, though, we have to start separating his physical potential from what we're actually getting on the field. Like JSN is just a more complete receiver that they're able to utilize in more areas of the field. And I think we've got to start to make that pivot from expecting we're expecting the 2019 season to come back through, or 2020. What was that? His second year, 2019 or 2020? I think it was 2020.
2019 was a rookie, and then 2020 was
Yeah, so the 80 for 1,300 and 80 for 13 and 110, like 1,310 touchdowns. Like we're expecting that to come back through. Like I don't know that we're ever going to get something, you know, an approximation of that again, especially with JSN now commanding around 140 targets. So I can see why the stock's definitely down on DK Metcalf. It just kind of scares me. It's a scary proposition to acquire him because you're acquiring a wide receiver 2 for likely more than a wide receiver 2 price.
Just based off of name recognition.
Exactly.
Exactly. And the value he has shown there. So it's, you know, people that are trying to sell him or wanting to sell him are, you know, probably connected to him and probably value him more than what they're willing to give up at this stage. So I'd be very reluctant to pick him up unless it's the right deal, like Big said. You know, and any player I'm worth getting if it's the right price. But if people are fading DK, he'd be interested in getting him. It would have to be a good price for me. You know, Kubiak going there definitely increases that value, but that's speculative at this stage. And, you know, if that were to come to fruition, I'd have a different thought on that for sure. But at this stage, connected with Geno Smith too, who I'm not really sold on anymore. You know, they're going to come in with a new offensive look as well. So they're going to have a quarterback that's going to have to adjust to that. And JSN's a younger guy, so they're going to probably revolve around him, and they got a strong run game as well. We can't discount that. So I just think that, you know, unless it's a Kubiak or a very offensive minded coach, they're going to have to really, you know, put a good offer in for me to accept.
Well, earlier today, Clint Kubiak had his second interview with Seattle, so that looks like it's about a done deal. And I mean, I'm telling you, look at the physical profiles of Brandon Ayuk and Jackson Smith and Jigba and Juwan Jennings and DK Metcalf, and both they don't share necessarily like the same skill set, but Juwan Jennings can be deployed downfield in contested catch situations, with Brandon Ayuk working more in the middle of the field and underneath. And Clint Kubiak is the guy that would be able to unlock that. DK is just a taller, more physically built specimen than Juwan Jennings. But other than that, they kind of profile fairly similarly. So, and you also brought up.
But the quarterback, though, I mean, I Brock Purdy throwing to Jennings and Ayuk is a lot different than Geno Smith.
Geno Smith is an excellent deep ball thrower, and you know that Clint Kubiak's going to be coming out of this draft with a quarterback, if not trying to grab a Sam Darnold or something like that, because we know that Sam Howell doesn't profile as a Clint Kubiak style guy. But you brought up earlier people that own DK Metcalf, and having trouble moving on because of the name recognition. There's a difference between targeting somebody in a trade and fielding an offer. I almost guarantee you that people who are offering DK Metcalf for something are willing to take something less than people who, if you ask for DK Metcalf, will. It's kind of like a car trade-in. If you're a dealer, the guy bringing their car to you is not going to accept anything less. But if you take your car to the dealership, the dealer is going to be like, yeah, I'll give you a rock bottom price. So don't be the guy targeting DK Metcalf. Be the guy ready to field an offer for DK Metcalf.
Yeah, I just don't think anybody is actively looking to get rid of him because of his value right now and how uncertain the situation is. So I just think people are going to be off of their price. They're going to be firm on what they're standing, or they're just not willing to trade him unless somebody's attacking it.
Well, we see that happen all the time in Dynasty, where if people are stubborn and they don't ring the bell at the top, if they're stubborn in wanting to sell yesterday's price, then that player is just going to continue to fall down in their stock, and then it just gets even worse. That's how you end up with either a total loss or just a huge gap down, where the ego or the mentality of not being able to psychologically sell at today's price versus what yesterday's price is, ends up being a detriment in pulling down some teams. If you make enough of those decisions collectively and not get out, instead of getting 80 cents on what you wish you could have been savvy enough to turn and flip and sell high, you're going to have some problems over the long run.
Agreed.
I love it.
Hell yeah, Schultzy.
That's good timing right there.
Yeah, that's quite the yawn. I think.
Real quick, guys. Have you guys seen this report that the Commanders were set to hire Ben Johnson last year?
But for Sam Howell?
Does that not give you cause for pause as to what his capabilities would be as a head coach?
If you want to know how I feel about Sam Howell, that can be summed up by that doesn't scare me at all. I love Sam Howell.
Why?
Tell him, Mike.
Gunslinger.
Well,
quarterback 6 in fantasy through week 14 of 2023.
And then his
upside.
offensive line was shit. They sold their defense. There's a lot of situations where it's really like this.
He is good.
Blake Bortles had a year where he was the quarterback 4.
Okay. Sam Howell is not a bad quarterback. He just had defense in his face over and over again. The 2023 Washington Commanders were absolutely garbage. And we saw something similar with the New Orleans Saints. You can have a good quarterback in a bad situation. Look at Sam Darnold. Am I scared of Sam Darnold based on the games against the Rams and the Lions? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because I know what he can do with an efficient offensive line in front of him. Sam Howell can do the same. Plus, it's got rushing upside. I like him.
What about like what you saw him do as the quarterback of the New York Jets or the Carolina Panthers, or just at any other point before this year?
We watch quarterbacks progress and get better.
How confident are you in Darnold re-rolling on another team and duplicating what happened in Minnesota? I'm lower in my confidence of that.
By low, do you mean like I'm laying on the floor covering myself in dirt?
If he
put it this way, I'm not erect. That's for sure.
If he's the Raiders quarterback in 2025, I'm happy.
I would only be more flaccid if I were dead.
A little rigor mortis action.
Real quick question, and this might help the viewers.
Oh, they already left.
Coach, do you know if one side or the other on Dynasty Daddy trades is who offered what, or who made the initial offer? Do you know if that's a thing?
like a username or
no? Okay, so I see a trade 23 days ago. It was DK Metcalf on the left and Lad McConkey on the right, and it was a straight up deal.
That would be good to know. That would be really good to know.
Highway robbery.
Yeah, the completed trade section. Yeah, I would love to see that, because that gives good context on the psychology, because we talk all the time about good luck getting this person off this player. There's endowment effect. The psychology part of the, hey, I'm looking for a trade or I'm offering. There's very nuance to that. And it's very interesting to see, because we'll hear, hey, this trade happened 1-for-1, but sometimes it's because the 50% side that offered made the deal happen, versus if it got offered the other way around, it may not happen. I like that psychology.
Right.
The psychology behind that trade was the DK Metcalf owner just sent that Lad McConkey owner pictures of them shirtless compared to each other every day until he finally just hit accept. That's the only thing I could think of.
That makes sense.
I just don't even know how sometimes these 1-for-1. I guess we're in a dynasty because of the age gap, maybe, but like the 1-for-1 positional thing, doesn't always make sense. It seems like they're just done to do the deal, unless it's in a dynasty where you're looking at, getting younger. And at that stage, that trade wouldn't have made any sense anyhow, because,
it doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Lad McConkey's coming on. and he's a better wide receiver at this stage.
Well,
he's a
some
better
people,
rec-
some people get ripped off, and that's why more people need to watch the Dynasty Pulse.
Yeah. Like he's younger, he's tied to a better quarterback in a better in a more certain offensive ecosystem, certainly, with less target competition. Like DK Metcalf traded for himself. That's what happened. That's it.
Okay.
That's what. Yep. DK Metcalf traded for himself in Dynasty.
There you have it.
Andy, yeah, I love it right there.
I love that way to end it. Bigz, bring us home. You do it all so well.
Well, we want you to like, subscribe, hit the bell. Love the channel, whichever one you're on, Fantasy Football Plus or the Undroppables. Look for the coming video. I just interviewed 2025's RB1 Lan Larison, who got some inside info on what he's doing to prepare for the 2025 draft, etc. Lan Larison should be a name that's on all of your lips. And of course, keep tuned for interesting content coming out of the Senior Bowl when I go down there. Also, all the things that these guys are saying on all their shows and stuff. It's follow us. We'll make you better, and we hope you win.
We hope you win.
We hope you win.
I hope you win.
I hope you don't put Lan Larison on your lips.